What's up guys? Welcome to AnimeKouhai. If you'd like to help me out, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel.
We must make him an ally regardless because we cannot allow him to join Guy's team. Valgrind believed this and constantly considered how to do it. For Valgrind, being aware of Veldora's development was crucial. She was unaware of Veldora's growth, though.
That is not the situation. Surprisingly, we lack a thorough understanding of the circumstance.
Rudra shared all of his knowledge with Valgrind. He started by talking about the first battle's significant losses, then moved on to the fact that the soldiers who entered the labyrinth did not emerge, and lastly he discussed the city's massive magical conquest. Calgario's awakening and the result of the battle were additional events. And precisely as it had been seen, the armored core was defeated.
I guess you have to be dishonest.
It is real. All 4 of the surviving primordials were working for Demon Lord Rimuru. Your sibling won't be involved if those demons are allowed to run amok.
The game's balance has changed. Is Guy angry about this? Or is this simply what he desires?
Well, maybe. We have to admit that the circumstance has turned out to be overwhelmingly unfavorable if this is what Guy desires.
Rudra chuckled, a bitter grin on his face. They had increased their strength over time and were preparing themselves for the ideal moment. You must battle steadily, with patience, and without recklessness. But in a split second, someone had gathered an unfathomable power. The newbie, Rimuru, was a diminutive being that had not even been taken into account. We now have no option but to accept it. Valgrind had this in mind and was secretly resolved to engage in combat.
Did you mean that you couldn't determine what was happening inside the labyrinth when you said that you didn't have a clear picture of the situation?
That's correct, of course. It is unfortunate that, despite my strength, I am unable to overpower Ramirez.
Valgrind was persuaded after hearing his response. Fairy of the Labyrinth, Ramirez was an invulnerable being. She was not the game's official judge, and she was not at all active on the board. So far, at least. She was vehemently in support of Demon Lord Rimuru this time. It was completely unrelated to Guy's game, but as the Empire had invaded the Great Jura Forest, she would have to contend with them. Ramirez was not particularly strong. Additionally, Valgrind believed Ramirez was insignificant and had no bearing on the game. The ability of her labyrinth creation, however, must have had the effect of obstructing information from both inside and outside. At such a troublesome ability, Valgrind felt like clicking her tongue.
The mediator powers of Ramirez must have been gone, right?
Yes, you're correct. Though we had neglected it up until now because it wasn't a threat, that one's labyrinth appears to be the best place to conceal secrets. I've been able to see through Jiwoo and Bernie's eyes up until this point.
All of a sudden, you can't see them?
Rudra agreed by nodding.
It was presumably a ruse to surprise me.
That's what you're saying, I see. This is trickier than I anticipated, if that's the case.
Valgrind was aware of how serious the situation was. In other terms, they were unaware of what transpired inside the labyrinth. Valgrind had the impression that there was more going on than what one might typically assume Veldora had done.
The labyrinth is full of strong creatures, which is the issue. The most notable one is your sibling, though I'm not sure how much this newcomer has managed to tame him.
Given his personality, I doubt he would submit to someone else's instructions in silence. Not to mention, I don't think anyone could use a skill to confine him.
Despite the rumors that he was working with Demon Lord Rimuru, Veldora was not the type of individual to follow orders. She was confident that he couldn't be forced to follow someone else because he disregarded the advice of his sisters, Valgrind and Velzard. If that were the case, did that imply that Demon Lord Rimuru had something ready that would allow him to control Veldora? Valgrind pondered this and made an effort to come up with a possible explanation. However, nothing occurred to mind. We wouldn't have had to go through all of this trouble if such an entity existed. Maybe we ought to speak with Demon Lord Rimuru directly? Valgrind eventually gave up trying to think.
We'll have to wait until we hear it directly from him, I suppose, to be positive.
When Rudra overheard Valgrind muttering, he too chuckled.
I suppose so. Glad to see you reached the same conclusion as I did.
They could no longer disregard the Demon Lord known as Rimuru. Given the methods by which he had obtained the primordials, they could be certain that he had Veldora at his disposal in some way. If that were the case, they determined it was essential to have him stand apart from Guy.
It would be wise to act right away. Guy might be taken off guard now that our plan has failed. A patient demon lord like him would probably anticipate that we would withdraw and await our next opportunity.
That's a good point. He has never taken significant risks, always being cautious in his moves. Maybe it would be wiser to act more quickly in this situation. We don't have much time to waste anyway.
Valgrind was overjoyed. Rudra was trying to resolve things with Guy at this point. They would stop waiting, and she could take advantage of the situation to quickly seize possession of Veldora. She would use this as a springboard to launch an all-out assault on Guy and destroy the new demon lord, Rimuru.
Hehehe. I'll take care of this, please. I'll kick some ass out there, and you can come over and set the groundwork after that. I have faith in you, Rudra.
Of course. Whatever comes after that is out of the question as long as we have Veldora. This should make up for our failure this time since Tatsuya appears to have a clever strategy.
Even the most problematic primordials wouldn't stand a chance against Velgrind, a true dragon, if she confronted them head-on. If they disobeyed them, they would simply have to clean them up collectively since it would be problematic if they subsequently became out of control. Others might pose a problem, but it doesn't matter as long as I'm personally engaged. Velgrind was confident.
Well, why don't we make those idiots bleed to warm up?
Those who defied Rudra were swaggeringly assembling. Until now, they have managed to keep them at bay, but that would change today. The coup plotters who attempted to overthrow the emperor would have been left with no option but to perish. Velgrind expressed her belief that this was the case, but Rudra smiled and shook his head. He then responded in an unexpected manner.
I want them to be alive, not dead.
That's uncommon, I suppose. I would have assumed you would have allowed them to pass away quickly and painlessly.
No, Tatsuya's strategy calls for it. In order to grab Guy's attention, he wishes to start another significant battle.
That reminds me a lot of Kondu. I never would have thought he would take advantage of a traitor for his own benefit.
You object to it. Tatsuya's strategy is undoubtedly inhumane, but there is no disputing its logic.
Velgrind gave Rudra a vague nod as he spoke. Velgrind didn't care how ridiculous the scheme was. She merely desired to personally bring down the wrath of heaven. Although Velgrind adored Rudra, this did not imply that she also loved humans. Although she did not want to harm them or detest them, she just couldn't forgive the idiots who had betrayed Rudra. Well, okay, I'll overlook it if Rudra benefits from it. Velgrind pushed the discussion to continue after being satisfied.
Then, what is Kondu's strategy?
We need to review our present strategy before moving on to that, though.
Velgrind heard this and knew instantly what Rudra meant.
Yeah, right. We don't need a two-sided strategy now that we're in this situation.
That's correct. Let's call it off and save our assault on Ruminas for another time.
Once you and I persuade Veldora, we can handle the rest. Gladium and the others will be called back by me so they won't get in the way.
Can you carry that out for me?
Of course, yes. Let's keep destroying the insurgents and capture Dworgen. We can fool Guy's sight in this manner.
The two stopped discussing strategies after that discussion. Velgrind stood up. She had not taken a significant action in countless years, so the curtain opened on what would later come to be known as the Purge of the Red Lotus.
Volume 14, Chapter 3, Chaos in the Capital, Part 1.
Deep darkness covered the imperial city. The advantages of scientific society had led to the installation of natural gas-powered streetlights in the imperial city. However, there were still backstreets that were inaccessible to the general public. Even as the imperial city expanded, it would be a while before all the darkness was vanquished. Misha was moving silently through the pitch-black city. Misha was born and raised in this place of darkness. She experienced calm and comfort instead of dread. This was Misha. She has been working diligently on the coup while remaining undetected in the days since she reported to Yuki. The Imperial Army was currently engaged in a mission. Going outside in such a circumstance was risky for Misha. If she were believed to be a hostile fugitive, she would be put to death, and in fact, it would be acceptable to do so. Misha, on the other hand, was a dignified woman and her countenance was devoid of any signs of fear. Misha's attitude made it clear that she was confident in her understanding of the capital's shadowy side. She was first and foremost an outstanding fighter, but she also frequently worked behind the scenes. Misha was a good leader as well, though not as effective as Vega and Damrata. She was an expert at gathering information, and she was pleased with her superiority over Blumen's and Dwargen's dark side agents. Misha thought she could therefore avoid the Imperial Intelligence Bureau. In actuality, she had made it this far in the Imperial City. As normal, Misha was on her way to her destination, but it seemed like she made a mistake. Despite the fact that Misha had not been reckless, a man appeared to obstruct her path. Tatsuya Kondu was his full name. He was known as the monster who ate up intelligence, and belonged to the Imperial Intelligence Agency. Damrata did not mention the name of this man, but it was believed that he was the Imperial Guardian's commander. Misha was certain that he was an opponent against whom she could never prevail.
At this hour of the night, where do you think you're going?
The cold voice of Kandu reverberated. In response, Misha grinned despite internally clicking her tongue.
Oh, I believe this is Lieutenant Kandu. Do you work late at night, Lieutenant Kandu?
Without delay, Misha launched a counterattack, but internally things were much worse. He is undoubtedly a monster for having found me in such a hidden location in this vast city. I doubt I'd be able to prevail in a fight, and the security personnel wouldn't be able to give us much time. In front of her, Kandu emerged out of nowhere, but it seemed like he was acting alone. Misha was pessimistic about the situation and attempted to find a means to get out of it.
You are Misha, the Calguryo Division Commander's Chief of Staff, correct? Why are you still in the nation's capital while the conflict is in progress?
Misha was questioned in a very serious manner by Kandu.
Lieutenant Kandu, I was terrified. I actually have a secret instruction from Calguryo to go back to the city.
Misha responded, feeling as though she could still deceive him. She was vigilantly looking around her surroundings at the same time for any indications. In the tiny passageway, nobody was present. That was great, but the guards had vanished, which presented a problem. Has he already attended to them? How much an ability gap was there that I failed to detect any combat signs? Misha quickly recognized the predicament. Although she had never met Kandu in person before, there was no way he had not heard of Misha. Though it was still unclear how he saw her, it would be challenging to handle this circumstance verbally. She should anticipate that there would be no opportunity for deception now that the guards had been eliminated without a doubt. Misha made the decision to approach Damrata, whom she was going to meet, and beg for assistance. But then a bad idea occurred to her. How did they discover my location? Can I really trust Damrata, as Yuki-sama has chosen to do? Damrata had chosen the location, and the purpose of today's talk was to tell the group of the upcoming covert meeting with Demon Lord Rimuru. Oh no, this is bad. Damrata's betrayal? I don't believe so. I am also grateful to Damrata, as well as Yuki-sama's sound discernment. Damrata and Misha had been friends for more than 2 decades. She was more knowledgeable about Damrata than Yuki was because she was the head of the secret Cerberus organization. Misha was incredibly perplexed for this reason. Damrata was a sensible person with a level mind. There didn't seem to be any justification for him to deceive Misha and the others based on the information he had provided. Misha not only wanted to believe this, but she also accepted Yuki's justification. If so, she should believe her friends completely at this point rather than hesitating.
Welcome to Anime Fan Narrations, your go-to channel for captivating fan translations of your favorite light novels. Today, we're excited to bring you the very first episode of Solo Leveling. If you enjoy our content, please support us by hitting the subscribe button and liking the video. Your support means a lot and helps us bring more amazing stories to life. Let's dive into the world of Solo Leveling. Solo Leveling Episode 1, Chapter 53, Part 1. The 3 mages who controlled the Iron Golem had also risen under his command.
27 infantry and 3 mages.
Deciding to keep the few mages, Jinwoo selected the nearest infantry.
I'm sorry. Extraction cancel.
The soldier turned to smoke and disappeared into nothingness. Not a trace remained. Jinwoo paused to pay his respects, then turned his attention to Ygritte. He was prepared. He had given up a valuable soldier to make room for Ygritte, so this had to be worth it. Now was the time to act. Jinwoo activated the skill.
Arise!
Unlike his previous attempt, the shadow beneath Ygritte began to tremble and stir as if it were alive. It was the same phenomenon he had seen when extracting other soldiers.
It's working.
Jinwoo clenched his fist. He had a good feeling about this.
Shadow extraction has been attempted. Extracting.
What would Ygritte look like when he came back? Sweat formed on Jinwoo's palms. But then, with the sound of breaking metal, a message appeared.
Shadow extraction failed.
What?
2 attempts remaining.
Phew!
He sighed in relief, knowing he still had another chance.
Now that I think about it.
The skill's description had mentioned that success depended on the target's abilities. Seeing this in action was surprising. His first extraction failure felt like a slap in the face. Moreover, there was a limit on the number of attempts.
2 attempts remaining.
If he failed those 2 attempts, would Ygritte's shadow vanish into the void like the sacrificed soldier? Jinwoo shuddered at the thought. He shook his head.
Let's not be pessimistic.
Stay positive. If he believed, perhaps the universe would lend a hand. Feeling a mix of dread and hope, Jinwoo tried the second attempt.
Arise!
His expectations were misplaced.
Shadow extraction failed. 1 attempt remaining.
Ygritte had been a thorn in his side while alive, and he was just as troublesome in death. He thought of the worst-case scenario again. After the second failure, things looked grim.
Whew.
Jinwoo took a deep breath. He had only 1 chance left, the final attempt. Jinwoo closed his eyes and gathered his thoughts.
It might just be based on probability, but
He wondered if his desire for Egret's shadow wasn't strong enough. Jinwoo slowly opened his eyes. The black smoke coming from Egret seemed to reach out to him, asking for rescue. Jinwoo's eyes sharpened. As if to grasp the hand for rescue, he extended his right hand.
Thank you for watching this sneak peek of Solo Leveling, Episode 1. If you enjoyed it and want to watch the full episode and future episodes, please check out her AnimeKouhai Patreon page. The link is in the description box below. Your support helps her bring you more great content. Enjoy the rest of the video.
That's it for this video, guys. Thank you for always watching my videos and supporting my channel. Shout out to the new members of AnimeKouhai supporters: Karen, Mark Charlie Els, Hansel Ortega, Karam Faraj, Yellow Wally, Efrain Hernandez, Luca Gaming WTF, William Locke, Vicente Baharias, Kamal Ebanks. Thank you so much for helping out. I'll see you guys in the next video.